Welcome to Five Stripe Weekly. We're going to be talking all things Atlanta United in the Eastern Conference Finals, our amazing home win, and Thursday's decisive leg against Red Bulls.
Welcome to the show, Five Stripe fam. I'm AJ, and this is Devon sitting in for Tanner this week. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. So guys, let's get into that 3-0 win over New York Red Bulls at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Guys, it was just a beautiful, beautiful win, and I'm still in a dreamlike state. I don't know if it actually happened or not, but I think all the articles online prove it to be so I think that's a good thing.
I woke up this morning, so yeah, it happened. If there's a state higher than Cloud 9, then I don't know what it is, but that was an amazing match. We have exorcised the demons.
Yes, indeed, because, of course, we have not beat them until Sunday, and it was just something that we've all been waiting for. I mean, since the inaugural match against them at Bobby Dodd, they've just kind of had our number, and to finally be able to do that in this fashion, in the playoffs, in such a meaningful game, really, I think meant a lot to the city, a lot to the fans, and definitely to the team. I think you could see the passion in their eyes as well. But getting into the match, the starting 11 looked like this, where Larry came back in and Miles was out. I mean, we were a little, trepidatious. I definitely was seeing Larry in that back line again, in that back three, something that is a little scary at times because he hasn't performed the most solidly every single time, I feel like, but yeah.
But it was an instance where I honestly felt like you needed that veteran presence.
Yeah, and he showed it for sure.
It was such a big game, and you're talking about Jeff Lorenowitz, who is, 36, 37 years old?
34? Yeah.
Is he? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the number.
Yeah.
But he's also like one of the top, appearance leaders in MLS history. Yeah. So you're talking about a guy that's played a lot of games in this league, and the moment has never seemed bigger than last night. I mean, with the energy in the building, and Jeff wasn't shaken by it. A lot of people would be, and he just wasn't. So the whole team stepped up their play, but having him in there was an amazing steadying presence.
Agreed. And unfortunately, a player like Tito misses out, and he had a big part to play later on, and we'll get to that. But I mean, it's just it's one of those where also Red Bulls were missing one of their key players that made that MLS Best 11. Kemar Lawrence, their left back, kind of allowed Franco Escobar to really have the game of his life.
That cannot be understated how big of a loss the Jamaican international was for Red Bulls. Kemar Lawrence, during the season, I hate to say it, but he had Julian Gressel in his back pocket.
Yeah, definitely that last match, it was, not the best showing from Gressel at Red Bull Arena, but I think, we were definitely happy to see Kemar Lawrence not in the lineup, but I mean, at Red Bull Arena, we were also missing Tyler Adams and
Bradley Wright Phillips too.
Yeah, and so it didn't really matter then, and we were a little skeptical if it would matter this time, and it definitely mattered. It was a huge
it was a huge miss, because if you go back and you look at it, that vaunted defense, that record-setting least goals allowed in a season defense was not as rock solid as you normally expect them to be.
And his deputy Lade was, I mean, he's not a slouch. He's a big veteran, but it's one of those things where he's a guy like Lawrence is a hulking, fast guy that can go up and down just like a Franco Escobar, and so it's difficult to replace him.
He's a wing back. He's in a system where he can affect the game on both sides of the pitch. So to not have that physical presence on defense, but also that person that can make that run on the counter and support their attacking players moving forward was a big loss for them. They just looked discombobulated. They're a pressing team that didn't press, and they're a defensive wall that wasn't a wall. So, I feel like we caught them at the right time, and we hit them with everything that we had, and it worked out well.
Yeah, it seemed like Chris Armas, their head coach, maybe changed their entire tactics in the place of Lawrence that wasn't in there. And I think if you do that against a really offensive team like Atlanta is, and that can control possession as well, and if you don't press them, I mean, you just give them time and space, it's just completely dangerous. Plays right into our hands. We had so much time to to create so many chances, and it was evident in that first chance that Joseph put away. It was Lorenowitz getting into just 15 yards of space where you could just run up and put a Gressel-like ball, if you will, onto Joseph. And I mean, the fact that their backline missed that ball. I mean, Joseph, yes, he is very, very good at heading the ball or getting a layoff or just getting a body on that ball. Yeah, the fact that they missed that ball and let him pretty much get a touch on it, really, just pretty much 4 yards away. I mean, and then slots it away just as clinical
on a
as
second
you like.
touch with the goalkeeper close.
Yeah.
I mean, the angle was cut, and he put it to the back post. Most strikers in the league fire that into the goalkeeper's chest or try to beat him near post. Now, and Joseph with the wherewithal of mind to bring it down, settle his touch, and not rush the shot, put it on his opposite foot and bury it to the far post.
With that little hesitation too. That's really what sold Robles to dive a certain way, and it's like, there you go.
It's almost like in hockey, like he went low and he left the shoulder 5-hole.
Exactly.
So it was a beautiful thing to see. It was clinical from the MLS Golden Boot winner.
Right, exactly. And with that, I mean, he's just breaking records left and right again, and we'll get to that a little later. But I mean, a
little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah. And but then we were on the front foot the entire match, but really kind of very shortly after that, Red Bulls, they seemingly level it when they get that away goal, or so we thought.
It certainly appeared that way, but for once the VAR gods worked in our favor.
Absolutely. It was almost the reverse of that New York Red Bulls match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium earlier in the year, where there was that Nagbe goal that was disallowed because Joseph Martinez was pretty much obstructing a little bit. And it's kind of that type of scenario where Moyle was
pretty clear line of sight violation as far as I would call it. No, it's one of those things that if it helps your team, it's a great call. If it hurts your team,
you're pissed.
You're absolutely just livid.
Right. And you're wondering what's going on in the stadium too, because no one in the stadium really knows what's going on.
And you and I had discussed it too. I originally thought that, and if you go back and you watch the replay, I thought Franco Escobar had been fouled. I thought he had been pushed in the back. Because if you watch Escobar on the lower corner before the free kick, he instantly throws his hands up, and he's been pushed in the back.
Right.
So I thought he was calling for a foul. But then when the ball ping-ponged around, it was very clear. You saw it was Moyle look over his shoulder and shift to Guzan's line of sight when Phillips took the shot. It was, like I said, if it helps your team, it's the right call. If it hurts your team, you're angry about it. But it was a line of sight technical infraction, and it was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, it's as textbook as they come, as Matt Doyle said on Twitter, and he shows with this graphic, as you'll see now. It's essentially, it's pretty much the exact scenario that happened. So
I hate the idea that Miguel Almiron was the one who was offsides on a corner kick in the previous match to do the same thing, but it's a technically right call.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the book calls, they're annoying, but it's the rules.
Yeah, it's not called very, very often, so that's where it's not very clear cut for everybody. But I mean, it's by the letter of the law. Then there it is. Yes, Guzan didn't really argue, but I think it's not really in his place. I mean, yes. Players argue the calls all the time, but I don't think even if they don't, doesn't mean that all of a sudden this call doesn't stand. So it's
not their job to be the official, and a lot of times we see players like in the NYC game, the second game at home, they'll raise their hands for a supposed offsides call that's not offsides, like with the Joseph goal where he was way on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the player that kept him on raises his hand sheepishly to be like, "Hey, save me, please."
Exactly. That's usually what happens. Yeah.
Save me, linesman.
Anytime you get scored on, you raise your hand and look at the linesman. But for that Franco Escobar, maybe a foul, but the playoffs pretty much have, a lot of the fouls have been let go, and so I think that might have been a little innocuous, maybe a little soft, and so I would have been like, wow, if that was it. I mean, I'm
just pointing out examples of what could have been fouls.
Yeah, because we were all wondering, of
course. Because we all know that studs to the ribs, according to Kevin Stott, is just play on.
Right, so. Exactly. And so that's where it's, hella confusing what is and what isn't really. But I think I prefer some adjustments to VAR and maybe the communication to the fans at the stadium, because we don't know what's really going on until way after. And I'm sure the Red Bulls fans that were there or even watching were just perplexed the entire time.
Just give me that rugby style microphone. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our fans watch rugby or Premier League rugby on NBCSN.
Right.
But whenever there's a questionable call or a referee is called in, he has a microphone, so he's explaining his decision. Right. He's explaining the fouls. They do the same thing in the NFL. They explain you holding number 74. That was the penalty, and this is why we're doing this. This is the 10-yard penalty. Right. This is this. So I just feel like there would be a little bit more clarity as well as a little bit more transparency for MLS and for Premier League and for soccer in general, if the referees would explain some of their decisions. Because a lot of times we're left, there were chances of you don't know what you're doing and ref, you suck. And it's because the fans are so frustrated at what appears to be just, non-consistency in calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or non-calls.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we all know that the reffing in MLS has a lot, to improve on and leaves a lot to be desired. So
what are you talking about? Pro Referees is an amazing organization of true professionals.
For sure. Ding. Yeah, but and let's move on to Franco Escobar's goal, where it was just so well taken. But that build up before that,
Franco Almiron.
Yeah, seriously, right? Yeah, with his left foot, he's just scoring bangers with his left foot. But this was as good of a team goal as I feel like it gets. Just pinging it around and Gressel with that pullback, and Joseph doesn't touch it, and it gets all the way to Escobar on the right.
I've got to ask you, when that ball passed Joseph, did part of you not go, oh?
Yeah, I think everybody
in that stadium had that collective no, moment to where it was
and then he's absolutely in just so much space that he can hit it pretty much into the roof of the net. I mean,
but it was a first touch ball that how many times have we watched the best strikers in the world sky that for 3 points?
Right, and especially this is his weak foot. I mean, it's just incredible what he's been doing in the playoffs. Franco Escobar, he has been beasting. It is just ridiculous what he's on, man. I don't know. I hope he's not actually on anything, but in terms of his form, he is on form.
I honestly can put it to the fact that I think that he's finally healthy. I mean, you got to understand that he's
been in and out a little bit.
He borderline had a skull fracture when we first brought him in, thanks to Brad the Tank Guzan.
Right.
And then when he came back, he did it to him again.
Yeah.
So, I think that he's finally there's a lot of players on our team that I think are finally peaking at just the absolute perfect time. Right. It just happens to be, at the end of the season when we've got something to seriously prove.
Right. Yeah, and it was definitely, we were kind of sputtering after Toronto, but I think we were coming into form very, very at the right time. We
had that bump. We had that post. We talked about this in previous fan cams, and there was that feeling that the team had almost peaked pre-July 4th.
Yeah.
We never really held a league larger than 4 points, the entire season. But there was something that happened in Dallas when we had that lead, that 2-1 lead that ended up becoming a 3-2 late loss.
Right.
To where just something felt wrong. I mean, we went and we drew Toronto. We went and we drew Seattle and Portland back to back, where our team just didn't play with any consistency, because you remember we were lumping crosses into nobody.
Yeah.
And we were having 70% possession but doing nothing with it. Well, we talked many times about this, how when our team plays direct and focuses on the fact that we have stars and we have better talent than those teams, and if we play to a level that is, of our preparation, as mentioned by Bobby Boswell, we can beat anybody. But there was that instance in that lull in the season where I feel like we were playing down to the level of the competition.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is our wingback play, and who's involved in that. And Franco Escobar is one of those big cogs. Greg Garza is also one of those big cogs because, we were missing him for most of the summer into the fall.
You're talking about two big injuries, two key injuries.
Dynamic guys, on both ends that are doing so much. I think, the replacements, they were solid. in McCann and Gressel, but Gressel is much more of an offensive guy. And
Gressel just gives you so much more.
Right.
When he, and when he plays as a right wing back, obviously he's moving up and down the pitch. But when when we were playing the 4-3-3 with him as a right back, he was limited, and you could tell that there was just that. You got to look at some of the injuries that this team has had and not missed a beat. I mean, we were 1 point off the all-time MLS points record, losing Darlington Nagbe for 10 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
Losing Greg Garza for the better part of the season to shoulder surgery. I mean, he was out May to May to almost October?
Pretty much September. Yeah, exactly.
You know, so yeah, and even spot appearances in September. So I mean, you're talking about deputize it. You know, we haven't had Salziza, we haven't had Mikey Ambrose. So this team has technically been thin because you don't want to rush a George Bello. A spot start here and there, some minutes here and there. You
and Bello was a little bit injured as well during the midseason as well. So it's one of those things where we finally have our guys healthy.
Yeah, well, they're healthy and they're rounding into form at the perfect time. Like I said, Barco missed a large chunk of the season. Rometty came in late, so you're finally getting to see Atlanta United. And they probably have that sour taste in their mouth from not winning the Supporters Shield, and knowing that this team's togetherness and this team's brotherhood pretty much rests on the outcome of these next 2 games.
Yeah, and it's a huge motivator for sure when you face that adversity of losing a trophy in that type of fashion against. Unfortunately, it's a team that wasn't in the playoffs, but yes, they are absolutely
snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, right.
I mean, literally, like having it was in your hands. All you had to do was get a result, and to not get the result and to be dependent on a team like Orlando that we all knew was not going to give us any kind of help against Red Bulls and be playing. All credit to Red Bulls; they were amazing all season long, and they did it quietly. Whereas Atlanta United has been the flashier team with the LAFCs and with the Zlatans, and we were in the news, and Red Bull just did their thing. I mean, they had a huge coach change in the middle of the season that nobody talks about,
and that as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jesse Marsh really had them playing their best soccer, and I mean, it's one of those things where Chris Armas, he's changed some things to try to make them a little bit better in possession, but I mean, I think he changed a little bit too much, and we'll get into that completely later.
Absolutely.
But
for the regular season, he did it without missing a beat.
Right, for sure. He definitely, just kind of steered them into that Supporters Shield win for sure. But one of those players that was has been in and out of the team as well, that scored the 3rd goal, Tito Villalba. Yeah, I mean, just ridiculous what he did to score that goal. But right before that, he had hit the post. He was upset. He was screaming into the skies. And, finally, he gets that other chance. And, he scores a little rug burner that... I mean, it's
the bend on that ball. I mean, just if you look at it on the replay from the back camera, where you see him actually take the shot, the ball is going wide.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going wide, and then it just bends it, and it's so well struck, and it's so world class, and Tito has those moments. Like, we all sit there and we say, if you could just bottle that, if you could catch that lightning in a bottle and somehow, make him do that and make him replicate that on a more, because he just has those moments, and then he has the moments where he does 6 step overs and turns the ball over.
Yeah, but it's
effort. It's always effort.
He's just so intense for the entire time that he's on. He goes balls to the wall, and that's kind of why he maybe kind of runs out of gas pretty early. He's usually one of the first ones taken out. So I think I'm going
to put it to you this way, and we've been missing a personality. And you guys that are watching, tell me if you agree in the comments. He is a more offensive Yamil Assad that is not as good defensively as Yamil Assad.
Yeah. I mean,
so basically, he and Yamil Assad are like the yin and the yang to each other. So Tito gives you more on offense, Yamil would give you more on defense, but in terms of heart, grit, and effort, they're the same person.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I would agree with most of that. I think it's the difference in maybe power and pace for Tito, and Yamil Assad's maybe a little bit more finesse and
positioning.
Yeah, and positioning. He's definitely a little bit more adept in his in his movement, I feel like, and Assad was. He could last an entire match, even though he looked gassed.
I get that, but what I say is the two players themselves, it like I said, they have different people, but when they wear the Five Stripes kit that I'm wearing right now on that pitch, like you saw the emotion out of Tito, you saw the emotion out of Assad when he scored our first goal.
Yeah.
So it's like just to see those two. I compare those two moments. Like Tito's goal to me was almost reminiscent of Assad's first goal for the club. Like just the emotion in the goal, the emotion in the stadium, the feelings to me, and that's one thing that I wanted to bring up and share them with us. There have been moments in this club singing the national anthem in the rain against Houston Dynamo against Bobby Dodd. The first goal, being scored by Emil Assad, and then last night with Tito Villalba's third goal, and the emotion showed.
Yeah. I don't think there was I don't think there was a dry eye in the house because everybody that I've talked to, including myself, I was doing a little bit of vlogging, and I pretty much welled up when Tito scored, because what it meant essentially is that this starved city of championships, we are one step closer, and it was the death knell into, I think, that game and into this series where we are in such a good position. I really was in tears of joy, and that's why I kind of had to wear sunglasses after the.
But the difference between 2-0, the difference between 2-0 and 3-0 is literally for those people that may be watching this for the first time or that don't understand soccer. The difference between a 2-0 advantage and a 3-0 advantage.
When aggregate scores are involved,
especially in a system where you like this is a home and home, which means both teams get to play at home, and you have what's called aggregate score. So with aggregate score, you pretty much have the composite total over the two legs. And the first tiebreaker is away goals. So Red Bull's got no away goals thanks to VAR and the proper call. But we have a 3-goal advantage going up, meaning that they would have to score 4 and keep us from scoring. They would literally to win it outright without going to overtime.
And the chances of us not scoring, I mean, we pretty much rarely get shut out. We are a team that always looks to get on the front foot and score, and so it just doesn't bode well for them, and we'll kind of get really into the nitty-gritty later. But
with the exception of the season opener, we haven't given up 4 goals.
Right. So it's going to be a tall task for them, and nothing is set in stone, of course. Job is not done, but we will be walking into Red Bull Arena with a very, very good position. But I think the man of the match might be really difficult because everybody really, really played well. But I think there's a standout. Who's the standout for you?
I'm going to go with somebody that's absolutely, probably not going to get mentioned. Because he just does it quietly, match in and match out. And since he's come back from injury, I think that Atlanta United's pace of play and offensive connectivity has been picked up by Darlington Nagbe. And he didn't get any assists, he didn't get any goals, but he is that glue. And my honorable mention would be somebody like Julian Gressel. I know that the goal scorers are in vogue, and Joseph Martinez, with a beautiful goal, but I think the glue that held that match together yesterday was Darlington Nagbe, and I would say the honorable mention was Julian Gressel.
Yeah, and I completely feel you, because it's Nagbe, when he's able to be fit and in form, which I don't think he really was against Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena. Basically he's able to just boss the entire match the entire time, and when you have that and you can keep possession and really just keep it away from Red Bulls, and they didn't press him, yes, but
he was winning headers.
Yeah,
I mean, going up and challenging and just that was a different Darlington Nagbe than I've seen. He was
grittier,
taking the center, the box to box center mid roll and running with it, and it gave protection in so many places, both offensively and defensively, because you knew that in cover, if say you put in a cross and they head it out, Nagbe is right there with Remedi to put it right back in. So I feel like he just bossed the game for us, and it's not flashy.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't. He's doing all the behind the scenes work, if you will, or he's like the engine underneath in your car. Where
he was the transmission that pushed everything forward, whereas everybody wants to talk about your horsepower that your engine has, but if your transmission doesn't work, then that car's not moving. And I really feel like our central midfield yesterday, it's not going to get the credit because Escobar, a defender, is scoring and getting assists,
right?
But our central midfield just bossed that game yesterday.
but
controlled their attack.
Right. But with that said, I feel like Franco Escobar does deserve the plaudits because yes, he does get that goal and that assist, but he also was doing it on the defensive end and on the offensive end, where he was, just on any outlet ball on the right. It wasn't a Tito, it was a Franco Escobar chasing down those balls from a right back position, essentially.
There was also one point in the game where Royer was trying to hold him off of a ball from going out of bounds, or he was trying to hold Royer off. And
exactly, and he muscled him out of it.
He muscled him out.
Yeah. And it just shows you, he has this, he's, he may be kind of to the ladies, he might be kind of a pretty boy, but I think he's got that tough guy attitude where he's going to fight for every single ball, and I think that sets the tone for what you want in the team. And so when you see that from maybe a guy that, and we'll kind of hear a little later that, from Joseph Martinez and Tata Martino, where they maybe didn't feel like he was at his best just yet. I mean, when you see that from maybe a guy like that, that really sets the tone for the rest of the team.
And Argentinian center backs it's always a good choice to have a couple of them in your squad.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
If you can have a wealth of Argentinian center backs, you're in a good place.
Agreed. And so, I mean, in this match, we also have some little bit of controversy. So let's get into the breakdown where, I mean, Joseph's first goal, or his goal rather, I mean, there's a little bit of, people that were trying to say that there was a handball, and for that, we say, really?
Just a rumor, not true.
Yeah, but so there's there's very inconclusive evidence of a handball. There's really nothing going on in my eyes, and that's just not from just an Atlanta United fan, but just looking at the video and the photos. I mean, yes, there is one photo where they've paused it where the ball is halfway to his chest, but other than that, every single video pretty much says, and from every angle, doesn't say that there's a hand involved at all. As physics might say as well, that if it bounces, I mean, it's just it bounced straight into his chest and then down. Like if it hit his arm, it would have maybe kind of skimmed it, went up. It just doesn't make any sense.
This is all salt because if you look at it, they have VAR in this league. This is not the Premier League where we still question and there's human error involved. If there was a handball, they would have called it,
right?
And they would have at least looked at it, and they didn't. So, do I think that there's controversy? I mean, I can take a Photoshop and give myself 6-pack abs.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can do anything with a photo, but the photos that we've seen. And just the fact that they did not go to VAR should be conclusive.
Right, I agree.
I have no idea who that team was that we played yesterday. All I've heard about is the vaunted Red Bull press, and this
completely
this 120% effort for 60 minutes, get the goal, and then bunker in
and next man up type of thing.
I have no idea who that team was that we. I mean, they wore Red Bull's jerseys. It said Bradley Wright Phillips on the back, and they look like they're players, but that style, that scheme, that we're going to concede possession and not attack and not even really counter.
Yeah, they try to counter, but they have some of the slowest, forwards in the game. It's just like, it's interesting that was the tactic for sure.
It like I said, and I don't want to come across negative against Red Bulls because, like I said, it looked like the moment was too big. Yeah. It looked like being in Atlanta, and that's not to say that Thursday, we won't have the pressure on us even with a 3-goal lead, but it just looked like they walked into a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And on full credit to the fans for if you don't want to call it a tifo, don't call it a tifo. But whatever it was
absolutely tifo.
It was 70,000 fans involved in a moment. Again, we talk about moments in history. That's I posted a picture today, but it's 631 days ago we had the debut in Bobby Dodd, and I posted that picture, and it was like, will it ever get like this again? Will it ever be as good as this? It was like 55,000, and the whole place was sold out. But then it's like you see a moment like last night, and the whole fan involvement, and just that, like Byron Ryan said, like that you don't see that outside of Europe. I mean,
he was it's something that he's not. Byron Ryan's not bought into MLS really. And he's been to the last 2 matches for Atlanta United, and he is I think convinced at least, and I don't know.
He's bought into Atlanta United. He may not be bought into MLS, but he's certainly bought into Atlanta United. So. But Ryan, hope you're doing well, buddy. For those of you that don't know, Ryan is a cancer survivor, ocular melanoma. He also is a survivor of a drunk driving crash where he was the victim. He was hit by a drunk driver, and I believe he broke his femur and has had to have many surgeries. But we love the guy. Shout out to Brian Ryan.
He's an inspiration.
Yeah. If you get a chance, watch his videos on Atlanta United Fan TV.
Right. And and so a little bit more of what the players and coaches said after the match, or coach Tata Martino, he pretty much said that they knew that this had to be a big change, and that after the Toronto match that we had to be very solid defensively, and I think we've shown that with just some ridiculous defensive numbers where we've had 2 clean sheets in 3 games. We've only conceded 1 goal.
One momentary pre-halftime, lapse.
Right.
Against or it was a free kick lapse.
Right.
Against NYCFC.
Which is still a little bit of our Achilles heel, and so
always has been. So we need there's one match that matters right now, and it's the one to get to the one that really matters. So if we can put together 90 minutes like we did the other night, we're going to be sitting pretty in New Jersey. But Red Bulls are going to bring it, and they have nothing to lose.
Right, agree.
Except everything.
Except everything, yeah. Except their entire fans that feel like they're always, kind of the bridesmaid. But
exactly.
Yeah, but and Tata also talked about Franco Escobar's performance, and I think with good reason. It's he said, "This is the player we wanted to sign for our team. The Franco we've seen in the last 5 or 6 games. He's adapted very well to the position. He's able to get forward. He's versatile. He's a physical player, and he's scored 2 goals now in the last 6 or 7 games for us that have been very important." I mean, it just, it reiterates how much of an impact and how much of an influence Franco Escobar has been since he's come back into the team. And
all the plaudits to the young Argentinian. I mean, let's be 100% honest. There were some people that were questioning, and again,
on the show.
It all comes down to injuries. I really don't think he's been 100%.
Right.
And when he got back, he was 80%, and then he was injured immediately right after that again too. So, like I said, it comes down to hitting your stride at the perfect time. We're just hitting it in the playoffs, and in a lot of ways, I think the way that things went down in Toronto with us losing the Shield on the last day. It was an awakening. I almost feel like if we would have lost, or if we would have won the Supporters Shield, we would have lost in the Eastern Conference semis.
Oh.
Because I feel like this team would have been complacent with having done something.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, I feel like we know Tata's going to leave. We're pretty sure Miggy's going to leave. There are going to be other departures. So I honestly feel like having that kick in the ass makes them say, like, we have to do something to leave a legacy. Otherwise, we're just a team that was here.
That's true.
So, I've seen a new fire. Like, we took it to NYCFC. NYCFC is a really good team on paper, and we made them look weak. Like we just took the all-time MLS points in a season leaders, the
best team in history,
best team in MLS history, and we made them look confused and weak, and I want to do it again. So it's kind of one of those things, like we've said it all along, like when we're putting it together and we're a finely tuned machine, a healthy machine, when you can put in an Escobar and trust that he's going to play his position and know where to be, we're unstoppable.
Yeah, agreed. But another person that's unstoppable, we'll get right into the news. Joseph Martinez has scored 34 goals in all competitions now. That's a crazy number, and he breaks the record by Roy Lassiter in 1996.
Tampa Bay Mutiny with those hideously ugly green and blue and other colored jersey. It was just awful.
Yeah, and but the fact is, that's a record that has stood for a very long time.
Very, very, very
22 years, essentially. That's quite a number. But
that was an original MLS club too.
It was, and I mean, they're no longer an MLS club, obviously, but they I think they're still languishing a little bit.
How many records has he broke? I mean, literally, he broke Stern John's hat trick, or Landon Donovan's hat trick record that was tied with Stern John, I believe.
Right. Yes, correct.
He breaks the Golden Boot, or the MLS goals scoring record.
Right, and in 2 years has scored 50 now, I think 53 goals or something like that, which also broke that record. Because
imagine if he hadn't have missed, how many matches did he miss with a thigh injury last season? So
yeah, exactly. In 2017,
we're watching greatness with Joseph Martinez, and again, he's a player that when we had our dip at the end of the season, it was when his goal dip.
It did coincide with that. It was probably
he scored against Orlando. He had the awesomeness that he did against Bendick, and then it was almost like he went quiet till the end of the season. So to see him pick it up and get back on the score sheet again, it just shows you like there's a hunger in this team that wouldn't have been there, I believe, had we won the Supporter Shield.
Right. Which, by the way, though, did you see that quote that Joseph said that? Yeah, I mean, he pretty much said about the Falcon statue outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He says, "I'm waiting for them to take the Falcon down and put one of me." I mean, that may
be a little bit of wishful thinking, but I do believe.
I love that swagger.
I do love the swagger, but honestly, I think that you're gonna see a monument park for Atlanta United because let's be 100% honest. There's names outside of players. Tata Martino, obviously, I believe deserves. I believe that we should have statues. Everybody knows I'm an Arsenal fan. Through and through. Statues like Arsene Wenger and Tony Adams and Bergkamp and Henry. Those provide lasting memories for the fans to come by. And I believe that a monument park for Atlanta United with a Darren Eales. I believe Darren Eales is the shepherd of the team. Carlos Bocanegra. How cool would a fusion? We win an MLS Cup. How cool would it be to have Miggy and Joseph doing one together?
That would be it.
So I mean, like the idea is, there's all kinds of moments that we could do. Yeah. But I mean, like if we could honor the amazingness that we've had with these two international players, and if it doesn't continue past this year, then so be it. But we're gonna have a monument park, and names like Tata Martino, Darren Eales, Joseph Martinez. You're not gonna take down the bird, but we can definitely honor you and your goal scoring stare in a certain way.
I think that
hopefully do it in bronze.
Yeah, I think that bodes well for the future of Joseph Martinez at Atlanta United, because that means that he wants to at least stay here for that legacy. I think that's what that means. So.
I honestly think Joseph's in a different situation than Miguel in that he's been to Europe.
Right, exactly.
And that he's played in higher leagues. And if you get an offer from Liga MX, is it really that better than being the highest paid player outside of Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the MLS once we make him that?
Yeah.
And being in a situation where you're playing in a full house, you're comfortable with the language of the city, you're comfortable with the food of the city, you know where the night spots are. Joseph's a king.
The supporters love him, and then you have chances at trophies. I mean, I think that's everything that you really want. I think it's a
also
no-brainer.
Too, you have a chance to be a legend, and the MLS is short on star power. So when you have short on young star power, I would say, when you have a name like Joseph Martinez that's playing in his prime and could go to a Monaco or could go to a Stade Rennais or because he said he doesn't want to go back to Italy. Yeah. So his options are limited. I mean, Man United's not calling. Arsenal's not calling.
Yeah, I mean, that's really where he would get the pay raise, I feel like. And,
right.
Maybe if there's some Champions League team that, calls him up and, maybe then. But I'm not sure that's really going to happen.
And I even think that the Champions League destination would matter because are you going to Shakhtar Donetsk? Are you going to, are you going to Ludogorets? Are you going to go? Are you going to go to a club simply because they're in the Champions League?
Yeah.
Or are you going to play in the CONCACAF Champions League? Like again, that I said, in a city that loves you. Where the standard of living, and your salary coincide with a great living.
Agreed.
And Buford Highway. I mean, come on, there's
absolutely
everything you could possibly want.
It's just, so much good food.
So much good food, Joseph.
Ridiculous. But moving on to the next piece of news. After last night's match, we have drawn 1,082,587 ticket buyers. For 20 matches at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year.
And you know what? That does not include the All-Star game where we knew we drew about 70-something thousand. So on top of that, over 1.1 million people have watched the beautiful game in Atlanta this year, and there's still another match to go.
Exactly. Hopefully.
There's another match to go. There's still another match to go.
Yes.
None of this hopefully. We're not hedging our bets here.
Oh, I'm hedging my bets, but because with this next stat from 538. It pretty much says that, Atlanta United have a 94% chance to advance to the MLS Cup We also have a 66% chance to win the MLS Cup. I mean, I don't want that kind of bad karma if we were like counting our chickens or anything like that. But I mean, those are good odds for sure.
I don't think it's counting your chickens. I think it's positivity and confidence in the fact that we have a 3-0 lead. We've only given up 4 to the Houston Dynamo in the opening match of the season.
In Toronto, yeah.
Well, but not scored. Having not, I'm
been
not
shut out.
I've been shut out 4-0,
Yeah,
which I mean, I just don't see them pressing us that. And I could be 100% wrong, and they could come out and score 2 goals in 10 minutes, and it's game on. But I honestly believe that this team is so up, like we just mentioned.
Yeah.
They have to leave a legacy, and they know that the only way to do that is to lift a trophy.
Yeah.
And I think that the Eastern Conference is merely step one. They really want that December the 8th match in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they're going to do everything in their power to do it. I saw a fight in this team that I haven't seen.
Yeah, this is a much different team than a kind of preseason not ready team that would play at Houston Dynamo. It's like way different. So it's night and day, really, I feel like. So I agree. Next piece is just how every single just maybe people maybe not even related to soccer, they were reporting about our full stadium tifo. I mean, just getting the plaudits that it deserves, essentially. And much love to all the supporters groups, Resurgence, Terminus Legion, Footy Mob, The Faction. They did an incredible job for the weeks in build up to this stunt, this tifo, this amazingness. And
shout out to everybody, man. I mean, seriously, like the Vamos ATL thing was amazing. And
just so good.
Honestly, like as somebody, like I don't gulch every match. I admit it, but for the past couple of matches, I've made it a point to be down there hours beforehand, just the smells and the sights and the sounds, and the fact that we're able to have Copa 90 and all these other outlets coming out and recognize, MLS Weekly and all these other people coming out and seeing what we're doing in the Gulch and what we're doing pre-match and how it's an SEC football tailgate for a football match or for a soccer match or for a football match. So it's
people, good vibes.
It really is too, and that's the thing is like I brought you over to where we were tailgating and. I don't know if you guys caught the pre-match videos, but this dude can grub some carne asada tacos, man. But no, it's just a feeling that's so different. And like I said, the team kind of rewarded the city last night, and I feel like we've been showing up for them, and they recognize that, and they've said that. And you look at Julian Gressel's tweets, and you look at Michael Parker's tweet about still being deaf, and I'm so proud of the authenticity of. People ask me outside, like, how do you explain this? How do you explain a second-year club, outdrawing Liverpool? On average, outdrawing. We're the 19th drawing, 19th highest drawing club in the world, outdrawing on average Liverpool Football Club.
Sure.
That is one of those things, and it was announced. We have a $330 million valuation in year 2 with no debt.
The highest, valuation
in the league.
Club.
So we're talking about things and steps that this club has made, and it honestly feels like to be a part of something like this. Like people ask me, like how can you explain what they do, and why do the fans feel the way that they do about this club? And it's like I can't. I love the Braves, but I don't have any ownership. I wasn't here in 1966. I love the Falcons, but they've been here for longer than I've been alive. So to be here on day one at the announcement and to get the scarf that didn't have a name on it.
Exactly. Just MLS Atlanta.
It's like, and now to see it in almost what feels like a culmination of really a 4-year process. It's beautiful to see the blueprint actually come to fruition. And I feel like the team, like I said, they want to leave that legacy because it's not going to be the same after this without Tata and whoever else moves on.
It's definitely going to change, but yeah.
So I feel like they're giving us 200%.
For sure. And I think it's also, we're creating this legacy, we're creating this culture as Atlanta United supporters, and so that's really the beautiful part is that we know we're creating something that's very unique and that's turning heads around the world, and I think that's what we're running with, and it's amazing. There are some detractors of our tifo. There were some criticizers or
people not calling it a tifo or saying that that the club was involved in funding it, which is not true. And that's the thing is like, just can we not have anything nice? Does everything have to be a troll job? Can we not? Can we not just look at the fact, as even if you're a neutral, even if you're an Orlando supporter, which I'm sorry if you are, but if you can't look at that and see the beauty of Jogo Bonito taking off in the United States like that, like people have,
it's raising MLS, it's raising soccer/football, the game. I cannot tell you the United States. The
pride that swells just in me as a former ODP player, and I played varsity soccer. Playing as a ranked soccer team against another ranked soccer team in front of nothing but our parents.
Right.
It's like God, we couldn't get. It's like, oh, I play soccer, and it's like no girl cares.
It's true.
So it's like, and to see it go from that to like. Just how the sport has grown. It's like, and to see so many young kids on our team. We're not playing with aging veterans. We're playing. We have a few in our squad, but they're Americans. Mm-hmm. It's Michael Parkhurst and Jeff Lorenz. But the majority of our team is young and vibrant, and
it's exciting.
They're putting, to quote Jeezy, man, they put on for the city. So
exactly.
It's a beautiful thing to see, and I do feel like they have to leave a legacy.
Right. Speaking of Atlanta hip hop legends, Big Boy hammered home the golden spike, and man, that I feel like I'm gonna bang on this like for the end of time. I feel like him hitting that golden spike before this match really set the tone. Where essentially it was a good omen. I feel like for me, I knew that we were going to win this match.
Well, there's authenticity in Outcast, and it's authentically Atlanta.
And people have been pining for Big Boy to hit that golden spike for so long, and the fact that they waited until this match.
Well, it's potentially potentially the last match of the season if things didn't go the way that they that's potentially now not to jinx anything.
Yeah.
But we may not do another one of these with me on it. But let's say that the match goes well on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Who's hitting that spike on December the 8th?
I really want Andre 3K to do it, but I know he's not really like maybe too into just really coming out into public lately. But if it's not Andre 3000,
is that something we should pose to the watchers?
I know, right?
Like maybe in the comments,
Andre 3000.
Let's get Andre 3K to hit the golden spike.
Yeah. Because I'm unabashed Outcast fan, and if you have the Joseph King shirt, you can tell there are influences, but it's that's tough, man.
There's so many.
If it's not Andre 3K, it's Ric Flair. Ric Flair's been at the All-Star game, but and he talked about it like very early on that he wanted to be in the stadium cheering on Atlanta United. He hasn't really been to an Atlanta United match, to my knowledge, but
I'll give you two names.
Yeah,
two Atlanta legends: Dominique Wilkins.
Okay, I like that.
Michael Vick.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. He might be a little bit divisive with all that other stuff that.
Other stuff, yes, I'll give
extracurriculars.
It to you. Okay, but still, like if you think about Atlanta legends, like I would love to see Dominique Wilkins. I would love to see. Hopefully, there's not a Hawks game that day because I know he's part of the broadcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Team.
Yeah.
But just the names. Other sports legends in our cities. Of course, I would love to maybe see some throwbacks to if we have any Atlanta Chiefs.
Yeah.
Or some, it's just some ode to history.
Yeah, I think a Chief has hit it before, and so, yeah, that has happened. But, yeah.
But if not that, I want to say a shout out to my buddy Will Turpin and Ed Rowland. Collective Soul would be another great one.
Yeah, hell yeah. And moving on to the next piece of news, Eels last week, President Darren Eels, spoke on 92.9. He pretty much was lamenting the international break and how it was already the second international break in the playoffs already. And, he thinks that it kills the narrative because you have a hiatus for 2 weeks and the momentum is pretty much stopped. And
the interlull system. It's kind of one of those things. As especially like I said, as a Premier League fan, it's really hard for a team to get a rhythm because it seems like you play 3 games and then you take 2 weeks off. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of instances, like with us, we had Joseph flying to play with Venezuela in Japan.
Yeah.
And was the other South Africa?
South Africa for the Paraguayans.
So we had. And
just long
flights
travel
all over the world. First off, you have to leave Atlanta to get to your training camp, and then you have to go from your training camp to wherever you're going to play for a match that means nothing. I mean, literally, like this Nations League is ridiculous. It's trying to get us to watch meaningless matches. I can understand it if it's a UEFA qualifier. I can understand it if it's a World Cup qualifier, because those are meaningful tournaments that actually have an outcome that affects players going forward in their transfer moves, in their seasons, and things like that. But when you're talking about flying a player thousands of miles and putting them through a completely different training regimen than what they're used to for their leagues, it just makes absolutely no sense. And the fact that like we suffer through 2 of them, it's crazy. And even the fact that there's time off after Thursday, I mean, the gap in time and play, it's a massive thing to have to overcome for any continuity. And if your team is playing well, it's just like it's like putting sugar in your gas tank.
For sure, yeah. But luckily, as Bobby Boswell says, we practice.
We
a
train
lot.
like hell.
But yeah, and so let's get into that Bobby Boswell thread where it was very interesting, and I'll read a little bit of this.
For those of you that don't follow Bobby on Twitter, he's definitely worth the read because the guy's funny and he tells it like it is.
He talked about how when he was traded to Atlanta at the beginning of August last year, he says, upon arrival, we trained for 24 days straight. Every one of those days included some type of fitness. Every time that we trained with the full squad, we worked on playing out of the back. Every single day. The team trained so much that shortly after I arrived, the Players Association filed its 3rd grievance of the year against the team for not giving enough time off. He says, when you attempt to press them high up the field, you're doing it against a team who has worked on that to the point of exhaustion. Atlanta is not unbeatable. They make mistakes like all teams do, but possession out of the back is their bread and butter, their pan and mantequilla. He says also that it is because of this that I am shocked they didn't win the Supporters Shield, and I will be shocked if they don't win MLS Cup. Even though I didn't get the opportunity that I wanted, I was grateful that they brought me in when DCU didn't want me. For that reason, I hope they win this thing. So yeah, I mean that's huge from Bobby Boswell, and
much love, respect.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're not necessarily kind words, but they're true words, and that's the most important thing in this game. Is like we work hard, and a lot of the fans will complain about the out of the back style, but it's what we drill, and we drill for moments like that or the moments that are coming up like Thursday when we know that a team that has to score goals is going to press the ever-loving hell out of us. Like, we've trained for it, so have a little bit of confidence.
Exactly, and it's a style that we've implemented, and that's something that's paramount. I feel like there's a lot of teams that don't have a set style, and that's really maybe sometimes they're undoing because they when push comes to shove, they just have to be super negative, pragmatic, and just like kick it out, and clear the lines, anytime.
Boom ball and reset.
Exactly.
Boom ball and reset, which you never really see Atlanta do. Even when pressed, we're always looking for short goal kicks to work it. It almost felt like at times like we had a pass counter to where like we couldn't take a shot on goal until we hit 15 passes.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Except for in the playoffs, we have been playing a little bit more not the prettiest football where and we don't really need to
attack, score, and move on aggregate.
Exactly. So that does it for the news, and let's get into the mailbag. And you guys send in these questions via IG story. Thank you guys.
Into the mailbag.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for sending those questions, and keep sending those questions in, and your question might be answered in the future. But first question comes from For the Future. Funny. Was it just me, or did anyone felt that passion when Tito scored the goal and shed a few tears as well? I mean, I think we talked about it earlier.
Dude was wearing sunglasses, man.
Yeah, it's I think it's a moment that everybody really just welled up because they knew what it really meant. And so
we can call it a for the badge moment. Like there's a lot of times where you'll see a player kiss the badge or grab the badge and show it to the supporters, and that I honestly believe was a for the badge moment for Tito.
And he was in tears because I think he has relief for
it's been a rough season.
He's been in and out of the team. Injuries have marred it a little bit, and
let's call it what it was. Bringing in Ezequiel Barco at the beginning of the season was really a shock to his confidence, I believe. It
could have been, yeah.
I honestly think he didn't get minutes at the beginning of the season, and then when Barco went down, I mean, obviously he was ready to step in.
Or not went down, but he was suspended.
Yeah. Well, when Barco did something.
Yeah, right. I think we all know. But next question comes from Spiky Hair 12. How does aggregate score work? We kind of talked about it earlier, but essentially,
I'll give it to you again.
Yeah.
There's a home and a home. So basically, Atlanta United played here. We're getting ready to go to New Jersey. The aggregate score is the collective goals scored over 2 legs. So we have 3, they have none. Basically, there are tiebreakers on top of that, but your whole goal is to score more goals over 2 legs. If we go up there and lose 3-1, we would win on aggregate 4-3. If we go up there and we lose 3-0 like Red Bulls did here, there's a scenario that we're going to break down for you. Right. But basically, we just don't want that to happen. Let's just handle our business.
Exactly. We don't want to get into squeaky.
So aggregate score means nothing more than the combined total goals over 2 legs.
Right. Next question comes from Eduardo V14. Could this result mean Atlanta can play calmer at Red Bulls? It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. Actually, I mean, it probably means no. Yeah, it's not going to be calm, but it will be where we're a little bit more assured. But other than that, yeah, I expect Red Bulls to completely come at all attack and really try to, just get as many goals as possible.
You're not going to see anything like what you saw the other night from Red Bulls because they can't play that way. They simply cannot play a sit-back style. They are 3 goals down with their season on the line.
Right.
So if they don't come out all out attack, their coach needs to be fired and everybody needs to be let go because it doesn't matter what you do if you come out with the wrong tactics in what essentially amounts to an elimination game for a championship, then I would question everything about your coaching decisions.
Right.
They're going to press like hell. Yeah. So we need it. Can it be calmer? No. But can we have a little bit of reassurance, on our side that we're 3 goals up? Absolutely. But Red Bulls, like I said, are that team that could come out and 10 minutes into the game it could be 2-0.
Right.
And then it's squeaky bum time.
Exactly. And we don't want to sit, I don't think at all. And but we'll get into that in the match preview. Next question comes from Aaron Long fan page. We got a Red Bull in the mix. Yep, from a Red Bull fan. Why would Armas change our tactics in a big game against a team that they continuously worked against? And not to mention the tactics that cemented our spot as the best team in the league. His decision may have just cost us our season. The cry face and hashtag that's so Metro. Obviously, they are very upset at why Armas did not press, did not do what was so successful for them to win the Supporters Shield and have a history-making season. And I think in that regard,
they're asking an Atlanta United fan why. Yeah, you're asking an Atlanta United fan why your coach.
Yeah, he follows us, and I think he has enjoyed our content, and so he's been a long follower. But in terms of that, I mean, just to answer his question, I feel like Armas probably changed it because Lawrence was out to have such an influential
Kamar Lawrence. Yeah, Kamar Lawrence being out really affects you guys.
Right. It's a big factor. Now the other reason may be that he tried to get the Red Bulls into a more possessive type of scheme when he came in to kind of counteract their weak point because yes, they create, I think on average about 7 chances a match, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's not very much. And so if they're going to try to score 4 goals, essentially, it's going to be a very, very tall task.
Well, and I ultimately think that it'll lead to a bunch of mistakes because they're going to have to possess on top of
and they're
press.
Uncomfortable doing it.
And they're not the fastest team in the league. So the ability to counter them, they also have a lot of players that are yellow card offenders that are not that the suspension is a worry to them or anything like that, but they are a team that can be had over the top with our speed, with our pace.
Absolutely, we showed that. Yeah,
with our attackers, we can put them in positions to where this could be a match where they press so hard that they have to commit a denial of a goal scoring opportunity foul.
Sure. Yep.
I honestly think that they are in a situation where they have to put so much emphasis on attack that their defense, already weakened, and especially if Kamar Lawrence doesn't play on Thursday, they're going to be susceptible to counters. They're going to be susceptible to long balls, and we just need to be willing to play the right ball at the right time. We can still play out of the back. We can still keep it simple and do like we do, but there was instances in yesterday's match that we didn't really break down, like where Garza was just standing by himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and a quick wide ball, I think, up there could lead to that away goal that would essentially seal it for Atlanta United.
Right. Last question comes from Will Coons. It's Gressel's first touch in midfield concerning going forward. He has the clutch gene, no doubt, and finds his moments, but it did let him down on occasion. Can we assume Franco will continue as a right wing back? Hard to argue against it. I mean, I think, we all know this about Julian Gressel. His first touch, or his touch in general, is not the best, and so that's why, him on the wing where he has a little bit more space, it's a little bit easier for him. When he's in the middle and he doesn't have that time and space, I mean, yes, you see kind of what happens, but I think he's a big enough body, he's physical, that he can handle himself in the middle, where when you do need a little bit more defense and maybe some pressing, he has that work rate and that physicality to be able to handle it.
The beautiful thing about this entire situation is that you have a coach who's willing to be fluid with his tactics.
Right.
This isn't football where it's like you're a 4-3 defense and that's what you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're a nickel defense and that's what you are. Like every game and every team and every situation requires an adjustment. Kamar Lawrence being out requires a more attacking style down the left side,
or the right side,
down the right side.
Yeah.
So or against their left side. So so our tactics changed and were fluid. And honestly, I get the feeling like Red Bulls weren't 100% sure what they were up against. And again, like I said, I brought it up a couple times in this pod already, and the moment I just feel was the city, the sounds, the sights, it was just too big for them. I think that whatever their game plan was, it was out the window when Joseph scored.
It very well could have been the case.
Joseph's goal was just their demeanor as a team changed, and the VAR callback of the Bradley, because they were playing tough,
right?
And Bradley Wright,
I think that took the sails.
It completely flat
the wind out of their sails.
Yeah,
definitely. But guys, let's get into the match preview, and it's 7:30 on Thursday, leg 2 at Red Bull Arena, and it's going to be, I mean, as we've mentioned a lot before in this pod already, this is going to be the biggest match in Atlanta United history, but we do have that leg up, pun intended. And it's all we have to do essentially is play our game that we played at Mercedes-Benz, and I think it bodes very, very well.
Four words: cold, loud, focused, intense.
Yeah,
that's all we need to be.
Right, but I think we'll get into maybe what a little bit more into in depth than that. But but the scenarios for us to get through to the Cup final essentially are: if we win, if we draw, and if there's any loss by less than 3 goals to New York Red Bulls. And we'll go into extra time with a 3-0 score line, and we would be eliminated by 5 goals or more, or if a 4-0 win by Red Bulls does occur. I think it's extremely implausible with the percentages that are out there. They have a 6% chance of winning that.
This is also a scenario, too, where an Atlanta United away goal would basically count for 2.
Exactly. And that's really what that aggregate score can do for you is, if we get that away goal, it really, really makes it hard on them. And so, I think we don't come out doing anything other than what we were doing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like, if we bunker, not wise.
Not wise.
We should not sit. I mean, yes, there should be moments where, when they do possess, or if they're pressing us, kick it out. Kick it out. Don't let them just, press us to death and make an mistake too close to our box, and they're in on our goal. nothing like that.
Be afraid. Don't be afraid of the long ball to clear the lines in this match, but also look for the counter because they're going to be susceptible to it. They have to press. They can't sit back. They have to score goals. So look for the opportunity to get over the top.
Right. But players that have just come back from the Paraguayan national team, like Kaku, like for him, he hasn't logged an assist since July 28th, and I mean it's very, very interesting. I think he's been maybe given that free roaming role by Armas, and maybe it's kind of worked to their detriment, where it's kind of thrown their shape a little bit.
Yeah, their attack doesn't look concise. Like they have a central striker that everybody's aware of. Bradley Wright Phillips has made a name for himself in this league, but they don't have a feeder for him, and Moyle's kind of been their secondary scorer. But they depend a lot on the feed of Royer and Kaku. So just kind of see them looking disjointed. They don't run a conventional striker with a false nine or anything. Like it's hard to even really say what their setup was.
They just
roved. It just kind of roved in circular pickups. So
right.
it's kind of like basketball where they do switches.
Yeah, they just pounce on mistakes, and if there's a good cross in, which they are very good at crossing, they're good at set pieces.
Yeah,
and that's just
and
what they
do. They're
do.
big. They're tall.
Yeah.
They've got a big squad. They're just they're
Long
not
and
very
Parker.
fast.
Yeah, very good at set pieces. They almost had that layoff for the goal, and so
and Robles has the ability to send a long ball at any time too.
Right.
His goal kicks are consistently passed into the attacking third. So
Right.
we know for a fact that they're gonna press and they're gonna put pressure and they're big, but they're also lumbering and they're susceptible. I think the key to Atlanta United is play wide. We cannot get drawn into the center of the pitch because that's what they want. They're going to be looking to foul and be fouled. I think free kicks could play a big role into the match because their fans are going to be angry. Angry
for calls, and
perceived injustices, and so I fully expect it to be an emotion-heavy game that we just can't get sucked into.
Right. We almost got sucked into it in this match, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium anyway, and you saw Loretowitz kind of playing, sheriff a little bit. Sure, yeah.
Peacekeeper.
Yeah, peacekeeper. Maybe he was a little bit involved in it a little bit, but yeah, who knows? But
Villain.
yeah, but
instigator.
And also though, we don't know if Kemar Lawrence is going to be out for this match. He is still a questionable. And
on our side, Greg Garza. Coming out with the substitution. Not really any news in terms of a serious injury, but he did mention something about a calf.
A calf thing.
I'm not sure if it was a knock or a pull but
that's why he had to go out of the game early, and that's why Chris McCann had come in. And I think, frankly, if we do have a Chris McCann come in, I don't think it's the end of the world. I know there are a lot of people that have been on Chris McCann's back, but in this type of match, I don't think. It's very, just super important for us to be bombing down the left anyway. So
my biggest fear about having to play Chris McCann in an Eastern Conference Final second leg is the fact that it's not that he's been in poor form. It's that he's fresh off of injury. Fresh off of a 3-week remove.
Right.
It was a quad or a muscular leg injury.
Right.
He's a professional, and he's played in the English Premier League. So I would fully expect him to come in and be capable of doing the job. It's just, will his body hold up? It's going to be cold. And like I said, it's going to be cold. It's going to be intense. It's going to be brutal. It could potentially be wet.
Yeah.
So, there's factors outside of just, in-game form that we're considering here. Like, I would love to have Greg Garza for 90 minutes if possible.
Because we've seen what he adds when he's in the lineup. I know I can hear the people that are calling for George Bello right now. And, with that, I don't know if you throw pretty much a rookie into this type of situation where it's.
Do you know how much is on the line? Do you know the kid should literally be studying for final exams, and you want him to play for an MLS Cup? Yeah.
He's by God good enough.
I'm not saying that he can't do it, and Alphonso Davies has proven that teenagers can make it in any league. But what I'm saying is with
he should have been getting more regular playing time.
Please, yes, with this much on the line, if Greg Garza could rub some dirt on it just one more time, please.
We need him for the final though, so I don't know. I'm torn, and so that gets us into our formation. And so, with that, I think it's that similar 4-3-3 that morphs into that 3-5-2.
Right.
And I think Larry sits out in this one. I think Gressel is out on the right wing. Just to kind of change it up a little bit more, and Escobar is more stout coming in because, well, I think Larry, having just come back from injury, he's 34. This is 3 games after the match, or 3 days after the match.
Right.
I think it's just asking a little bit too much. I think he can come back in later.
Plus, an LGP Escobar,
and
Parkhurst
Parkey,
center back pairing puts 2 stud Argentinians on your left and your right with a solid captain, potential defender of the year, MLS defender of the year,
right?
Candidate as your your voice and your guide, because I know Guzan talks a lot and guides everybody around, but the glue in that LGP is the flair, Escobar is the grit, and Parkhurst is kind of the glue in the brain.
He's shepherding everybody to where they're supposed to be.
He's the positioning master.
Right.
So if you run Escobar at his natural position of right center back, I think that that's a smart move, and you don't lose anything in experience by not having Lorenowitz on the pitch.
Yeah. Which I think he comes in later on if we're
holding a lead.
Yeah, exactly. We're needed to protect something. Now, for me, I don't think Garza plays on the left. I think it is McCann that does come in. But if Garza's healthy, absolutely he plays. And in midfield, it's Nagbe and Remedi. And I think also that Tito comes back in.
See, you say Tito, and I think that I say Barco.
Yeah,
I think that Ezequiel Barco has shown so much in just his limited minutes that if he does not feature as a starter, he's a guy that, like with a Lorenowitz, that I could see come in at halftime. Like if we're let's say it's a 0-0, but they're pressing and it's shaky, or let's say it's 1-0 and they've scored and and we're looking to hold. I think that you could Barco has shown enough in the limited minutes, just his hustle and his jumping over players as opposed to taking a dive and looking for a call.
He took on 5 players last match and won a foul.
And he looked great against NYC too in the limited time that he had. So I think that Barco is calling for minutes. I mean, you can't go wrong with Tito Villalba because he's been in form. But I just think that now might be the time to play Ezequiel Barco for 45 minutes at least.
All right, yeah. Leave us your starting 11, what you predict in the comments below. We're interested in seeing what your thoughts on who should start. But let's
Miggy and Joseph, of course.
Exactly. that is without being said.
The Fusion brothers have to be in any lineup that we feature. So,
but that gets us into the predictions. And what do you think the scoreline's gonna be?
Honestly, like going up to Red Bulls Arena and getting a victory is gonna be tough. They don't lose there very often, so they've kind of made their house a palace. I think they're going to press, but I honestly am of a different mindset. I think they're going to be so amped and feel so much pressure that we're going to get them early. I think we're going to get our away goal, and I think we're going to get it quick. But then I think that they're going to fight back and make it like 2-1.
Okay.
I would say 2-1 to Red Bulls, but 4-2 to Atlanta United on aggregate.
Okay. Yeah, I think because we're going to be coming out very, very strong and trying to score a goal, I feel like I think we're gonna get one early. They're gonna have to go all out. That leaves
Where
them
have I heard this before?
That leaves them susceptible. Yeah, for sure. But I think it opens them up even more, where I think it's gonna be a 2-2 draw.
Oh, okay.
Which gets us completely through,
completely wide and clear.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I think it's that means we're on to the MLS Cup final. But you guys leave us what your scoreline predictions are, because this could go any way.
Anyway,
really could go anyway.
It really could.
And guys, that gets us to our question of the day, and we're gonna pose this question to you in a very kind of hypothetical situation, because we haven't gone through yet. But if we have gone through, who would you rather face in the MLS Cup final? Would you rather face Sporting KC, or would you rather face the Portland Timbers? Let us know in the comments below. Get in and around there, and we look forward to seeing what you're going to say. So guys, that's it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, smash that like button, and share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Devon, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.